Welcome back to TME, guys. Good to be getting back with you. I have some stuff I want to share. This subject that I'm going to be talking over in this video is very related to my story. You know, the story that I've shared with everybody on my channel. For those of you that have been around from the beginning, thanks. I appreciate your interest. And I just want to apologize. And I wish that, you know, some of the people that were here earlier on that actually watched my videos that left, well, I can't say I blame them for leaving. I have my reasons for that I'll share with you. I made a video a few months ago, actually right after I quit the last job that I had, and it was called Never Waste Your Mistakes. And I said a lot of really important stuff in that video, and important things to me, and apparently it kind of inspired some other people, and they enjoyed what I had to say. And I hope they took it to heart, because I felt like I was speaking from my heart in that video. And that's what I want to do in this video, okay? But if you guys know about my story as a truck driver, this video, the information in it, it's not really pertaining to truck driving, but it relates to it because it relates to everything, okay? And you'll see what I mean in just a minute. But it's very connected to my story. And I feel like what I went through last year, and even what I'm still going through now, it's all connected. And I never really could articulate or you know, just explain why I made the decision to do what I did and end up failing a drug test as a truck driver, losing my job. You know, I could have lost so much. I could have lost my house. I could have lost my wife. I was just reacting. Last year, I feel like it was no different. Moving on and trying to keep the pace, to keep your attention. Recently, I came across a very interesting couple of books. The author of the book, it says Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I'm a real big fan of listening to audiobooks while I drive on Audible. And I came across these two books. You know, normally I'm listening to like Thomas Harris, you know, Silence of the Lambs, Red Dragon, Stephen King, The Shining, you know, stuff like that. But I saw this book. Is called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and I listened to it a couple weeks ago, and it was so good. And it's not just one of those books that you listen to. It's got like advice, it's got exercises, things for you to try. And since then I've tried a couple of those things, and I feel like they're really leading me in a good direction. I feel like got positive results so far out of doing it. I'm not trying to sell you on this guy. I don't know that much about him. All I know is that the stuff that I listened to in his audiobook really struck a chord in me and really got my attention. And I think it was more than just his book, though. I think it was also like something spiritual within me. I don't think it was any coincidence that I came across this stuff. The other book that I just listened to in the past couple of days is called Becoming Supernatural. So if you guys are interested in the stuff that I'm about to talk about, I recommend checking this stuff out. If you're a truck driver, if you like to listen to audiobooks while you're doing your job, check these books out if you're interested. But let me get into it. So Dr. Joe Dispenza, he's got a website, and these two books, he's got several books on Audible actually. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself and Becoming Supernatural. Okay. But I've actually got notes here. I've got notes because I'm so bad at rambling on. I got a little bit of ADD, and I just want to be able to keep the pacing up in this so that I keep your attention, keep you interested. Because this stuff is like really powerful. It's awesome, okay? But the first thing I want to bring up is that if you guys, I know you don't know me, but if you know my content and you've seen my videos, you notice this about me, okay? In a lot of my videos, what I have managed to do is create a timeline on YouTube of my endeavors as I do my job, just going about my way throughout the day. And I'll get these thoughts and I'll express myself. Sometimes I might say something inspirational, but a lot of times it's negative. Like I'm just like a negatively charged person, you know, and there are reasons for that, and it's all related. It's going back to what I did, failing the drug test, all of that whole experience, reliving it over and over in my head, and then everything before that point that led me up to that point to make those decisions that ultimately affected my life. Okay, so for the sap people that have watched some of my videos, this is for you guys too, like definitely for you guys. I feel like if I helped you with anything I said in that one video, never waste your mistakes, I feel like this will really help you, because it's really helping me. I will just open up with you guys and express to you that there are a few specific emotions that I've dealt with in my daily life for the past, like, I don't even know how long, like over a decade and beyond. Like just going, I mean, I could go all the way back. I'm not going to like go all the way back to my childhood, okay? But I've always felt misery, despair, especially with being a truck driver, frustration, hatred, jealousy, anger, rage. A lot of times, you know, it's not my intention to feel this way or put off this kind of energy into the universe. The space around me is just, it's like negatively charged, and no wonder people are repelled by my content. I've struggled with these emotions. I'm just sitting here, I'm trying to think, like, when was the last time I actually felt happy? I mean, there might be one point that I feel happy each week, and that's whenever I get to go home and get the hell out of this truck. I don't enjoy this. I feel like I'm in a trap. So I'm not going to go on any further with that. You know how I feel about what I do. Being a truck driver for 8.5 years, being exposed to this kind of lifestyle, being cooped up in a truck, being watched on camera, being monitored by AI, challenged by, you know, having to anticipate what people around me are going to do on the road, and just over analyzing about why people do things that they do, and all this stuff just wearing down on me. I hope if you're a truck driver, you can understand where I'm coming from. It wears down on you. It does. I don't know if you believe in evolution or not. I'm going to say that I don't believe that all the evolution stuff that science is pushing that I necessarily believe in. A lot of it I don't believe in, but I do believe in evolution to a certain extent, and I do believe that we have instinct, you know, that things that are in our genome as human beings that we inherited from our ancestors and their ancestors and their ancestors, going all the way to the back. So I do believe in evolution to a certain extent. But what it does, especially something like truck driving, okay, it gets you into this state of survival mode. It induces stress hormones in your body, and I'm going to talk more about why that is in a few minutes. When you're in a high level of concentration and you feel pressure, especially when you're being watched, because they got these cameras in these trucks now, and not only is it a camera, it's got AI. So you're feeling pressure from that, but you're also feeling pressure from the traffic around you and what they're going to do, trying to anticipate their actions, right? Well, they're rarely ever are they going to be sensitive or empathetic towards you, or keep in mind, you know, the space around your vehicle or the space around their vehicle, and they're going to do what they do. They're not aware of the physics involved in the situation. So things that they do might feel normal to them. You know what I'm talking about. Like if you drive a truck and then you drive your car, you know the difference. You know the difference in the physics. They're not thinking about the physics involved in what you're doing. Therefore, they'll do things according to their physics and not yours, even though it's going to impact you. So going back to the stress hormones, after being subjected to the stress for so long, your mind, your focus, you're in this high state of focus, it programs your body, okay? It releases hormones in your body. It's a biological thing. It affects your body in a biological way. Well, after you do this every day for hours and hours and hours and countless hours every day, eventually your body is going to become addicted to these biochemicals. And what I'm talking about is the hormones. If you want to know what those hormones are, you want to know more information about them, then listen to the books that I told you about, all right? So what that does is it puts you in cycles. Your conscious mind is not even aware of what's happening. But what you end up doing is you end up feeling this stress. And the stress is connected with all these emotions I just listed: misery, despair, frustration, hatred, jealousy, anger, rage. You are subjected, and you might be thinking, well, yeah, I can see the frustration, maybe hatred if it gets that bad, anger, sure, rage, yeah, because if it goes unchecked for so long, then it's going to turn from anger to rage. Well, what's up with the jealousy? Well, you just, in my particular circumstance, I'm not saying anybody else has ever felt this way, but I've felt jealous. As much as I work as a truck driver, I look at other people's lives and I've actually been jealous of them. Oh, well, they make more than I do, and they don't work but a fraction of the amount of time that I work to make the crappy amount that I make. Well, ultimately, this goes on and on and on for so long, and you start to feel miserable, and you might even start to feel despair over a matter of time. And I'll talk more about how that despair comes into play in a minute too. But again, you get stuck in the cycle of feeling these emotions. So it becomes a conscious thought, which triggers the stress hormone, because you notice something, your senses, your sight sees something, and it triggers that in you, okay? It releases the hormones. So it makes you feel a certain way, and that way that you feel, it's not a good feeling at all. It can cause misery, okay, when it happens over and over and over again. So you end up feeling the way that you think, because it starts as a conscious thought, okay? After you feel that way for a span of time, and this could be a cycle of hours, it could be a cycle of minutes, it might start out happening once or twice a month, couple times a week, and then end up happening over and over and over again, just repetitively throughout each day that you're doing this. And this doesn't have to relate to truck driving. I'm just relating it to truck driving because that's how my experience with it has been. You're stuck in survival mode. It's the evolutionary mode, because think about it, like our ancestors, before all the technology, before the safety, before firearms, before all the stuff that primitive human beings had to run away from. And it triggered these things. This is how we learned how to survive, human beings. And these things are inside of us even now. Even though we're not living in the woods anymore, we're not running away from wild animals, we still have all this stuff inside of us. Okay? That's why people act the way that they act on the interstate. That's why people drive the way that they drive. That's why people have road rage. It's all coming back to this evolutionary survival thing. So you get stuck in the cycle of feeling the way that you think and thinking the way that you feel. After enduring this for so long, if it goes unchecked, your body eventually is going to take over your consciousness. And that's when you lose it. You lose part of your will, really. You lose part of your will because you're stuck in the cycle. And honestly, when your body takes over and your body's running the show, because after you drive a truck for so long, you've got the muscle memory down. You know exactly where to look in your mirrors every time. You know what I'm saying? You just have the muscle memory. You're just repeating the same actions over and over and over again. It's always the same thing. It's very repetitive driving a truck. Okay, it's extremely repetitive. Once you got it down, you got it down. You know exactly where to look. You know exactly where to watch out for. You're not really, over a span of time, you're not really conscious about this at all. Okay, so your body's running the show through the muscle memory, right? Well, your brain basically becomes unconscious. You might have conscious thoughts, but when you're in this state of operating, your brain pretty much becomes unconscious. This might sound kind of weird, but once your body becomes addicted to these stress hormones that I'm talking about, your body craves it. So that's what triggers the thoughts, which jumpstarts the cycle of feeling the way you think and thinking the way that you feel. And basically, your body's living in the past. It's still responding from that initial phase when you lost it. You know, if it became so overwhelming that you kind of went off on a tangent and your body released those hormones, and that happens so many times over and over and over again, and your body becomes addicted to the stress, and you're not even aware of it. You're not even conscious of it. If you look at this in some of my previous videos, you can pick up on this. You really can. I can. So what I want to say about this state, since I just spent so much time describing it to you, is that I'll just refer to it as survival mode, okay? Because that's literally what it is. This is an uncurable ailment, and it won't respond to self-effort in a positive way. It can lead to all kinds of health issues. It can lead to all kinds of problems inside of you. It can cause all kinds of emotional disorders, depression. You know, there's even been truck drivers out there that have taken their lives, you know what I'm saying? Because the stress, it grows and grows and grows, and then it becomes too much. Or it might cause somebody to respond the way that I responded whenever I decided to start taking legal THC and failed a drug test and all that. It can be treated by the medical industry, but not cured, only treated, okay? So say you have depression or whatever, or you have rage, or you decide you want to go to the doctor, you want to be diagnosed, you want to be treated for whatever the hell is going on with your mental health because you just can't take it anymore, right? So your doctor, they might prescribe antidepressants, they might prescribe whatever the hell those things are called. They're like antidepressants, but they're stronger. They're a lot stronger. And that's basically one of the only things that a truck driver can take if it's cleared by a doctor. I can't remember what they're called. I'll put the name of it on the screen. Okay. But moving on. This medication that you're taking is going to cause side effects. So ultimately, it's going to cause more problems. It might help a little bit, but it's still going to cause problems in other areas, right? All medication has side effects. If you guys notice, again, I've been dealing with this. I've been dealing with this the whole time, and I hope that I described it in a way that I captured what I'm going through and somebody else out there can relate to it, all right? I'm going to move on now, okay? I'm going to talk about what I learned from these books about the human brain. The way that your brain functions in the states that your brain is in, you're aware of this stuff. So I've been aware for the longest time. I've been aware that I have a problem. But I guess because my body is addicted to the stress, and it's actually triggering these things to happen over and over again. and I'm stuck in this cycle, my perception is aware that my being as a whole is unbalanced and it's dysfunctional. What I've tried to do, if you go on beyond the THC thing, because I was actually struggling with this stuff. I've been struggling with this stuff for as long as I've been a truck driver. At first, I thought that I could use self-effort to improve it. I blamed it on myself. I knew there was something wrong with me. I wanted to feel guilty about it. I wanted to feel, like I deserve punishment or something from God. And this was back in my religious days, whenever I used to be religious. So I sought penance for it and thought that, God was angry at me for being angry all the time, and that I was ingrateful, and that, I was, the whole freaking deal with all that crap. I'm not even going to get into it. In trying to fight through self-effort, trying to fight these emotions, what I always got was kickback. So if I tried to go against it, it's same thing with like nicotine, okay? Any kind of addiction or anything like that, your body's still addicted to this stress. Like these chemicals that your brain, they're being like created between your brain and your body. Your body's addicted to it, just like your body can be addicted to a substance. You try to fight against it, and you try to solve it in your own strength. You try to make it go away in your own strength. Well, you're just going to get a ton of kickback. You try to go against the grain, you're going to get, every action has an equal or opposite reaction. You know what I'm saying? But it's not equal. It's actually, it just hits you even harder, It gets worse over time. And that's why you can reach these other like deeper seated emotions like rage and misery and despair, because that's what it leads to. When you notice the frustration and you can't solve it, and you just keep dealing with it, you start to feel like you're hopeless. There's no solution to this, because ultimately what you're doing is you're focusing on all your problems, right? You're focusing on all your problems from the outside. And here's what I mean by the outside, okay? So we all, if we're alive, if we're functioning human beings, and even if we're dysfunctional human beings, if you're alive, if you're conscious, you have brain waves. What are brain waves? Brain waves are electrical impulses in the brain. And they have a hertz or cycles per second, okay? There are 5 known types of brain waves. The first type of brain wave is beta, okay? Beta is, I shouldn't say first, this really doesn't go in order at all. If there was a first, it would be delta, because that's, newborn babies, infants, even up until they're toddlers, they can operate in the delta brain waves. But okay, the first one I want to go over is the beta, and it's consciousness, and it's basically your awareness of your physical self and your surroundings. It's thought, action, and reaction, okay? So what are we doing as truck drivers? Constantly, for hours and hours and hours on end, every single freaking day, we're operating in these beta brain waves. The high beta brain waves are attached to this survival mode that I just described previously. The high beta brain waves. And they're associated with the stress. Okay? And it's actually been proven that when you're subjected to high beta brain waves for long periods of time, it can be extremely detrimental on your health. Not just your mental health, it can actually start to affect your DNA. It can affect different organs in your body. It can affect different functions in your body. It can affect your immune system. This is how people develop cancer. and all these other terrible, horrifying diseases. It's because of these stress levels. It's because they're off balance, they're off kilter. This is what causes autoimmune problems. By the way, I've got, scalp psoriasis. That's an autoimmune deficiency. It's one of those things where your body's attacking its own cells. It's because there's some kind of imbalance in your body. The second type of brainwave is the alpha. And this is also consciousness, but it's like the relaxed, resting with your eyes closed. And it's like the initial creative state, So if you're in beta, most of the time you might be learning, you might be focusing, but then there's the high beta, which is unnatural actually. And this is, again, what we're subjected to as truck drivers, I honestly believe. We're hyper focused on our physical surroundings, and that's not natural. We weren't meant to be exposed to stuff like that for as long as we are exposed to it as truck drivers. We just weren't. It's not healthy. The alpha brainwaves, again, it's relaxation. It might be reading a book that you've read before that you like I've, Lord of the Rings is one of my favorite books. I've read it so many freaking times. I can read it now, and I because I know what's going on, I can just pick up on any spot of it, you know what I'm saying? And just know what's going to happen next and just dive into it, really. So relaxed, So you're not really learning, and you don't have to focus too much, but it's like an inspirational, creative state of mind, okay? So I'm thinking, and this is why I make videos, honestly, is because I'm trying to trigger these alpha brainwaves. I'm trying to get creative. I'm trying to get out of that survival mode and get into a creativity mode. The third type of brainwaves is the theta. And this is deep relaxation. This is the realm of creativity, the creative state of mind. Alpha is like initial creativity. Theta is like a deeper, inward focusing, visualizing creativity. This is like this is the brain state that kids, between the ages of 5 and 10 years old, around in there, maybe 8 years old, most of them operate for a good portion of the time in that theta state. That's why kids are so good at imagining things. Their imaginations go crazy. It's because they're operating off of these slower brain waves. The next one is delta. Again, this is like infants, newborns, up to the point that they're toddlers. They spend most of their time in the delta. And what this is it's deep sleep, it's lucid dreaming, it's the deepest form of sleep, actually, and it's also associated with healing. Get that? So there's actually documented evidence of people that have gone into these delta brainwave, this state. It's like the deep, it's the subconsciousness, okay? So they've gone into these states and they've been healed from addictions. They've actually been healed in their body. People have done meditation and actually, they've had cancer cells erased from their bodies. The last brainwave state is gamma. This is the highest level of, so it's like beta, but it's beyond. So if high beta would be stress-inducing negativity, gamma would be higher than that, but in a good way, like a transcending kind of way, like you're experiencing something supernatural. You're having a vision, anything like that. It's the highest level. It could be associated with deep focus, learning, memory, information processing, and it's like the doorway into higher states of consciousness. So if delta is the deepest state of your subconscious mind, then gamma would be the highest state of your conscious mind. Okay. So now I'm going to get into the whole meditation thing. Meditation for healing involves maintaining awareness while releasing a connection with your surroundings, with time, and with identity. And this is really important because this is the only thing that I haven't tried to counteract this mental dysfunction that I've had. It's actually, like I said, it's affected my biological state and my body because I've been exposed to it for so long. Okay, and this is why I'm addicted to substances, and because I'm trying to think back, and I'm trying to think back. When was the last time? Again, when's the last time I've really felt joy? When was the last time I really felt happiness? Not very often, and not in a really long time. I don't even remember what those emotions feel like because I've been so miserable for so freaking long. What this book, these two books that I'm listening to has been teaching me is that in order to heal and grow and actually get to that point, I know that before I told you guys it's all about identity. It's all about identity. But when I say that, because I already knew some of this stuff, I just didn't realize, how prevalent it was or how intentional you have to be to actually get to this state of being. It's not that you're earning it. Again, it's not religious at all. It's not like you're earning it or striving in that kind of way to earn it, to please God or anything. It's not. It's already in you. You do have to put forth self-effort to connect with it and release what you're holding on to so that you can gain and grasp what's already inside of you. Because if you notice, meditation is basically going inside of yourself, but unable to do that, you have to disconnect from the outside world. And that means disconnecting from your surroundings. It means disconnecting from time, and it means disconnecting from your identity. So if I was going back to the whole ontology thing, when I said before in previous, I made another video about a year ago called Overcoming Negativity. And this is very, very relevant to that video that I made when I talked about several things. And one of the things that I said is that, we're not human beings having spiritual experiences. We're spiritual beings having human experiences. And this is exactly what I meant when I said that. I just didn't know at that point. I didn't know. I mean, I know how to pray. I know how to talk to God. I know how to, I can feel the presence of God more than anything. But this is kind of deeper than prayer. It actually is, because when you're praying, you're just projecting conscious thoughts, but you're not really accessing the deeper parts of yourself. And I'll elaborate more on that in just a minute. But so basically, like, you have to let go. You have to let go of you just stop caring about this stuff. Just let it go. Just let it go. Let your surroundings go. Forget about time and forget about who you are. Forget about your identity. Forget about your thoughts. Forget about how you're upset, why you're upset. Stop analyzing about this stuff. And that's what I've had to do. I've literally had to take myself by the collar and say, stop. Get out of that beta brainwave. It's not solving anything. You're just going in cycles. And I've had to do that with myself in the past week or so. Whenever I'm trying to meditate, I'm actually trying to do this, you guys. So you have to let go of all that stuff. I have to let go of my identity. I have to let go of Jared. I have to let go of my gender. I have to let go of my preferences, what I like, what I'm into, my hobbies. I have to forget about all that stuff to make this work. I have to get rid of these conscious thoughts. I just have to let them go and sink into myself, because that's where all the answers are. And I wrote here the method for entering the subconscious mind and reprogramming the body. Again, going back to the body and how the body has been trained ultimately by your brain, and going in those cycles, your body's been trained to run off of this program where it's addicted to these hormones, these stress hormones that put you in survival mode. When honestly, to be honest with you, if it has to do with evolution, that means that there are new things that we have access to. And if you're a Christian, then this would have everything to do with, like, what the Bible says about the Sermon on the Mount, and Romans chapter 7 versus Romans chapter 8. It's all relative to what I'm talking about here, okay? And even if if you're another religion, it's all relatable, okay? It really is, because it's really all access to the divine being that created the cosmos. Ultimately that's what it is. But it has to do with our evolution. It really does, because believe it or not, this is the direction that our universe is moving in. This is the direction that humanity is moving in. Just here to let you know, something big is on the horizon in humanity. We're on the threshold of something really big. Okay? If you're a Christian, you can relate that to Christ. Absolutely, you can. All right. So let me go back to this. The method for entering the subconscious mind is meditation, and you reprogram the body to be in one constant state with your brain or your mind. So you're no longer double-minded. In the book of Matthew, Jesus said, when your eye is single, your whole body will be full of light. So I think that's a statement that goes toward ontology, the truth of your being matching the way of your being. And the truth of your being would actually be your true identity, or who God created you to be, versus your behavior or the way that you act or the way that you think in those beta waves. When you're in your subconscious mind and you're there to do the reprogramming, you're really just surrendering to if you want to call this life force that's inside of you. If you want, again, call it what you want to call it, but it is the all-knowing, all-seeing creative force that brought the cosmos into existence. And that's how you have direct access. We have access to this other realm, this spirit realm. The Greeks called it pneuma. This is like sacred, ancient stuff, okay? But ultimately, it's real. I'm just here to tell you it's real. I'm gonna give you kind of like a testimonial of what I've experienced so far, if you're still interested. This is where we can make that exchange. We make that exchange from our previous finite emotions. Going back to those emotions, I'll list them again one more time. These are negative emotions that I have been controlled by for years and years and years, really as long as I can remember. Misery, despair, frustration, hatred, jealousy, anger, rage. Okay? So when you go under, you make this exchange, and you continue to do this. You have to practice. Meditation, it takes practice. It's like learning how to drive a truck. It takes exposure, it takes practice to master. But you're making this exchange, and because our Creator is unconditional love, you're not going before that life source. And actually, one thing that the guy that wrote the book, the doctor, he refers to it as the quantum field, which is kind of interesting. It's like an energy field where the source of life and creativity comes from. That's governing over and watching, sees everything, all knowing, all seeing, all loving, unconditional, love. Okay? So when you go before this life source, you're not going guilty. You're not going trying to understand how all of it works. You're just going and you're surrendering. You're surrendering to the source of life that's already inside of you, because that's where you're connecting. That's where your connection point is. It's already installed inside of your being. It really is. You're born with it. One thing that's interesting is like me having the history in the religion of Christianity and knowing the Bible and everything. I think it is kind of interesting. Where if you read in, I think it's like the book of Ezekiel, he mentions a sea of glass. And this doctor, he's kind of referring to it as the quantum field. And I'll get more into that quantum physics part of it, because this is scientific and it's also spiritual at the same time. It's kind of marrying the concept of science, recordable data, things that have been measured, recorded, and seen, and tested, mixed with spiritual experiences that people describe having whenever they are in meditation. Okay, so the last thing I want to say about this is, like, he brings up the really important point that this is a big hinge point on perception to begin with. Okay, because I've noticed something about that cycle that I get into, and I noticed something that I'm always doing. And like I said before, it's all based on your senses. Well, what's outside of your senses? I said this in the Overcoming Negativity video. I said, what is outside of your senses? There's a whole world inside of you that you don't know about, and it's beyond your 5 senses. Well, he says that the known physical universe is made up of 0.0000001% particles, which come from light, and the other 99.999999% is empty space. So, I don't know, this is kind of random, but if you know the comedian Bill Hicks, and it's in a Tool song. It's in that Tool Third Eye song. He says he's like making fun of a news anchor or something, and he's like, today a young man on acid realized that all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration, that we are all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. There's no such thing as death, and life is only a dream. Here's Tom with the weather. Well, this is kind of touching on that quantum stuff. No, I'm not saying do acid. I'm not. Because what are you doing when you take acid or any kind of drug like that? You're taking something from the outside and you're trying to use it to solve some kind of internal thing when the solution is already inside of you. Okay, that's the difference. All right. He says, if you took an atom, as small as an atom is, and increased its size to a compact car, the energy field, the energy field of electrons that travel around an atom, okay? The energy field of an atom that was the size of a compact car would be 85,000 square miles. So that ring that the electron goes around the atom, which, by the way, the electron can go anywhere in any possible, it can be in any possible position as it moves around an atom. That's energy, right? That's energy. Okay, that 85,000 square miles, that's equivalent to the size of Cuba, pretty much. And here's the point about that. All matter is energy. All matter is energy. This includes your body. This includes your surroundings. Okay? So think about that. Think about that. So one of the things, I'll go back into this real quick before I wrap it up. One of the things I noticed when I was going through these mental cycles and this programming in my mind that was just constantly, going back to the best way to describe it is feeling the way you think and thinking the way that you feel. Okay, that's the best way to describe it. So I would always notice that I would be triggered by my senses. I was always being affected by my outside surroundings. So if I'm driving on the road and I see something and I know that it's going to cause me some kind of delay, if it's going to cause some kind of inconvenience for me because I'm having to respond in order to stay safe, I'm having to respond and like adjust my speed or something to keep from having an accident when somebody did something careless to cause an accident. Okay, here's a different way of thinking about it. When you're looking beyond your senses, when you have that awareness, like I said, that's the whole thing. By meditating, you're kind of training yourself to lose touch with your surroundings, lose touch with time, and lose touch with your identity, who you are. But you are maintaining awareness. And when you can do that, it will change the way that you think. And I experienced that today. Like, something really cool, I'll just quickly go over what I did. I've done it the past few days, but I'll try to, before I go to bed at night and after I wake up in the morning, I'll spend a considerable amount of time trying to meditate in this alpha phase. And he says, if you want to try this is what he says about it. He says that it's a lot easier to do it just before you go to sleep or just after you wake up, because you're just coming out of those theta brainwaves, that actually the delta brainwaves, when you're in deep sleep and then you come out and you're like in the threshold, the doorway of your subconscious mind. And then the alpha, like if you notice, like for a long time after you wake up, you're kind of dazed, you're kind of hazy. It's because your brain is in the alpha phase. It's in between the theta and the alpha phase. So again, you've got beta, alpha, theta, and delta. So if this is the lowest point of the subconsciousness and this is the highest point of consciousness, you've got these two other states. You got theta on the bottom and you got alpha on the top. Theta is the doorway of your subconscious mind. So just before you fall asleep, you might notice that your brain just empties out. I know that I've noticed that a lot. Like, and I'm about to doze off or something, I just let go. I lose it all, and then I'm asleep. Well, when you're meditating, you're focusing on these different brain waves, and then they become familiar to you, and then you start you're something really incredible happens in your body. Okay. Everything just balances out when you start to realize that you are more energy than you are solid matter. You are a spirit. Say it again. We are spiritual beings having human experiences. But after doing this for the past few days, I noticed something different today. Like, I had to go through, some of the worst parts of driving in Atlanta. And you guys know how much I hate driving in Atlanta on the interstates. But something kind of different happened today when I was driving. No, I wasn't trying to meditate when I was driving. That's not what I'm saying. But because I had meditated, I was thinking differently, and I wasn't thinking in terms of my senses or what I could see. I was really, more than anything, I was just feeling and processing things as they were happening. So I felt myself. Just like every surrounding vehicle around me, it was different. I wasn't looking at it and reacting to it as dead, solid matter. I was looking at it and reacting to it as energy. I could feel it. More than I could sense it with my vision, I could feel it. And something incredible happened. I didn't get frustrated when people cut me off and slammed on their brakes. It was different this time. It was like, it was like I could feel that my consciousness was connected to their consciousness. And I had sympathetic emotions instead of frustrating, hateful emotions. I had sympathetic emotions, and it was a lot different, and it didn't impact me or stress me out at all. I just felt like I was a force moving through, and it was actually quite invigorating. I kind of enjoyed driving in Atlanta traffic. For once in my life, that actually happened to me. Who knows what's going to happen next? Because guess what, guys? I'm not going to stop doing this. I'm not going to stop doing this until I actually, metanoia, change the way that I think. And the way that I'm going to do that is by doing this, because so far it's really helping me a lot. Okay, the last thing I want to say is to think about think about this. Think about everything I've told you. Think about what you are. You are human. Okay, think about how you've been incredibly created. Think about all the systems in your body, your central nervous system, your sympathetic nervous system, all these functions your body's processing, going through all these different chemicals that are being released into your cells, and things that are coming from the chromosomes in your DNA, and all this stuff that's just happening. What do you think's making that happen? You're not thinking about it, it's just happening. It's because there's a life source inside of you bringing you to life, keeping you alive. It's energy. It's energy. And it's what connects everything together. It is so big that, remember, it is the 99.99999% that we are all ignoring because we can't sense it with our five senses. It's deeper than that. It's more sacred than that. So ultimately the reason why I have been so miserable for so long is because I've been focusing on that 0.000001% and ignoring the 99.99999%. Think about that. And that's exactly what most of the other people in this world are doing. So if it can turn something that I've done repetitively over the past 8.5 years that I absolutely dreaded doing into an actual positive experience that I actually enjoyed, because I saw it in a different way without my eyes. I more sensed it than anything else, and it was moving to me. It was almost a spiritual experience, but in a different way than what I'm used to doing what I did. And guys, I'm not saying that I made this huge milestone breakthrough, but I think I made a pretty good start. I made such a good start that I'm extremely motivated to continue doing this. And that's what I wanted to share with you. An hour. It took me an hour to say all that. But, hey, if you listen to what I had to say, take it to heart, because I think it's really going to help you in a practical way. So, I know you're probably wondering, you're thinking, how do I do this? How do I meditate? Well, I'm still trying to figure that out, but I know one thing. If you focus really hard, it seemed to be the most effective for me, just after I woke up in the morning. And I'm still in that really hazy state. It doesn't work as good when I try to do it at night, but I'm still going to keep trying to do it at night. But basically what you're doing is you're trying to get your body to fall asleep and still maintain awareness. And like I said, you have to let go of your surroundings, time, and your identity, and still maintain an awareness. So that basically means you're becoming nothing. You're becoming nothing. And essentially by becoming nothing, you're losing yourself, becoming nothing, and then you're actually, ultimately, according to this doctor, you're actually gaining everything by doing that. And that's whenever you reach the connection with the higher being, God. And you feel the unconditional love, you feel the healing, And it's not so much even about, doing some practical exercise or like, whenever you get into your subconscious, you're basically just, you're acknowledging an awareness of the being that created you, and you're surrendering to it. You're trying to align your will with its will, and then finally you are showing gratitude. You're thanking that being. And then when you come back, you're still showing gratitude. Basically, you're bringing your agreement in with the agreement of the higher being that created you and everything else. That's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. So I'll get back with you guys again in the near future and give you an update about all this. But in the meantime, I hope this was interesting, and even that it helped somebody out there that listened to me before. Well, I think the stuff I just told you about, I think it's a lot better than anything I said before. But keep in mind that it is all related, and it all kind of led up to what I said in this video. All right, I'll see you guys next time. You guys take it easy. Bye.